Picture a classic Saharan oasis, quiet palm groves framed by the rugged Kurdada Mountains, offering a peaceful refuge in the Algerian desert. But as we push past the canopy, what emerges isn't a sleepy village. This is Boussaada, and despite its modest footprint, it serves as the unofficial capital for the Ouled Nile, a massive tribal confederation whose numbers stretch into the millions. Look closely at the ground here, and the chronology becomes impossibly dense. 10,000-year-old rock art sits within walking distance of Roman military ruins and rare Fatimid coins, all occupying the same small geographic footprint. For centuries, the region was a corridor for conquest, swept by Numidian kings, Roman legions, and the great Hilalian migrations. While these waves typically erased or replaced the settlements in their path, Boussaada's physical layout remained fixed through every successive era. To understand how Boussaada survived, we have to read the city itself. Its streets and crumbling walls hide a deeply layered record of invasion, adaptation, and political deception. Every stone placed in this city was a calculated choice for survival. Boussaada is a forensic map of Algerian history. The human record here begins long before any written text. Out on the city's edges, near the road to Sidi Amer, ancient rock art mirrors the famous Tassili frescoes, proving prehistoric hunter-gatherers were the first to anchor themselves to this landscape. Thousands of years later, the Roman Empire identified the strategic value of this exact spot. They built a permanent military outpost known as Boussaada, integrating it into their Limptis Sabins defensive line. This document catalogs the sheer volume of archaeological evidence recovered from the area. The long list of lithic tools, blades, scrapers, and knives, alongside Roman material remnants, proves this location was highly active and permanently settled. When the Islamic era began, the city's strategic gravity held strong. The Fatimid dynasty recognized its value, leaving behind a trail of exceptionally rare, locally minted coinage. But while Romans and Fatimids laid the physical bedrock, they didn't define the people. The cultural DNA of modern Boussaada would be forged by a massive, controversial demographic shift that arrived centuries later. The modern foundation of Boussaada dates to the arrival of the scholar Sidi Tamer. He constructed Jama el-Nakla, the Mosque of the Palm, drawing in Andalusian refugees and Sinhaja Berber populations around this spiritual center. Eventually, the region became dominated by the Ouled Nile. They are the largest tribal confederation in Algeria, possessing a fiercely distinct visual and cultural identity. Tracing their exact origins, however, reveals a major contradiction. The 14th century historian Ibn Khaldun documented them as Arab Hilalian nomads from the Sukba tribe. Yet, many within the confederation claim to be Shorafa, nobles who trace their lineage directly back to the Prophet. This widespread claim to noble Idrisid lineage was, for many, a highly sophisticated political survival tactic deployed against the Ottoman Empire. The Ottomans levied crippling taxes on regular nomadic tribes, but they officially exempted the Shorafa. Facing economic ruin, local tribes realized that acquiring the paperwork proving noble lineage was the ultimate shield against the Ottoman tax collectors. Identity in Boussaada became an economic strategy. Managing this fragile ecosystem, a mix of genuine desert nomads, religious scholars, and tax-evading newly minted nobles, required a highly specific urban design to keep the peace. To prevent friction, the city physically divided itself into distinct self-governing neighborhoods known as hadas. Walking up these narrow cobblestone streets, you'd find the Muamin and Ashasha hadas. These quarters operated as the intellectual engines of the city, packed with ancient mosques and schools dedicated to Quranic education. Adjacent to them was the Shorfa Hara. This was a highly exclusive neighborhood, restricted entirely to those families holding the prized tax-exempt noble lineage. Further down was the Arkub Hara, the designated Jewish quarter. The residents here drove the city's trade and finance, but operated under strict social rules. They wore black headbands for identification and were legally forbidden from riding horses. These physical borders maintained civic order for centuries. But today, the fragile mud brick and stone structures that housed this delicate ecosystem are rapidly decaying. The haras functioned as the spatial manifestation of a delicate social contract, keeping the peace between groups with wildly different legal and spiritual statuses. When the French military arrived in the 19th century, they immediately clashed with Boussaada's deep-rooted culture of independence. To force submission, the colonial administration built Fort Cavaignac, projecting military power over the ancient city. But the city's labyrinthine layout and rebellious DNA made it a natural stronghold for resistance. During the Algerian Revolution, Boussaada became the strategic headquarters for Wilaya 6, serving as a critical nerve center for the liberation struggle. Thousands of years of Hylalayan, Andalusian, and indigenous blending eventually crystallized into the Boussaada we see today. You can read that synthesis in the local silver jewelry, the distinct craftsmanship of their knives, and the fiery Zafiti cuisine. Boussaada represents the physical synthesis of the Algerian story, a place where nomadic Arab traditions, Andalusian influence, and ancient Berber roots fused into a single urban identity. This academic text outlines the findings of modern anthropological studies, and it carries a stark warning. Boussaada's physical archive is facing severe neglect. Without immediate intervention, this material history will erode into the desert. To maintain these walls is to protect the only surviving physical archive of a 10,000-year strategy. If the masonry fails, the tangible record of that endurance disappears.